So excuse all of the ruckus in the background. They decided to climb over my stuff. We are going to have an amazing panel, an amazing evening tonight. This is the queer art of reading and resilience, uplifting BIPOC, trans life, and spirit. We have, well, my name is just JP. I use any pronouns, she, they, he, mix them up. And I am so happy, so excited to be here. If you're watching this on the rewatch, thank you so much for tuning in. We are going to wait a couple more seconds to let people come in. We have about 22 people in attendance right now, and I really appreciate everybody being here. A little bit of information about tonight. We are going to start with the video. Then Kaamila is going to lead us in an exercise, and then we are going to introduce our panelists and start talking. So right now I am going to share my screen and I am going to play a video that grounds a little bit and gives us some history about the conversations that we will be having today.
On a hot night in June 1969, police raided the Stonewall Inn in Greenwich Village, New York. But this time, rather than be arrested, the Queens and street kids fought back. The riots that ensued are considered the beginning of the LGBTQ movement in America. But the movement has much deeper roots. 3 years before Stonewall, in August 1966, trans people at Compton's cafeteria in San Francisco also rioted against the police. Late at night, when trans people congregated there, police would routinely harass them in their sanctuary. But on this night, led by trans women and femmes of color, the community resisted. Similar but lesser-known uprisings occurred in Los Angeles at Cooper's Donuts in 1959, and at the Black Cat in 1967, and in Philadelphia at Dewey's Restaurant in 1965. There are probably many other such events yet to be uncovered. They remind us of our courageous history of resisting institutionalized bullying and oppression. In the decades that followed, trans people largely remained in the shadows, quietly contributing to society. Our community was still denied employment, housing, healthcare, and legal protection, essentially the basic right to live. Yet even when they were criminalized by anti-cross-dressing and anti-loitering laws, our transcestors, including Miss Major, Marsha P. Johnson, and Sylvia Rivera, and Flawless Sabrina, survived. They all spent time in jail because they dared to be themselves when our society made it a crime to deviate from gender norms. But time marched forward, and so did they, passing along their survival strategies. And today, trans people are more visible than ever. Though our lives and bodies are sometimes celebrated, we remain more often targeted. In schools, harassment often forces trans students to drop out. Federal and state governments act as bullies too, now rescinding guidance to schools on how to protect trans students and passing harmful laws banning trans people from common restrooms. Epidemics of homelessness, HIV, and incarceration constrain the survival opportunities for trans women of color. The murder rate of trans women of color increases with every passing year. Rather than invest in our survival, the new administration has attempted to both literally and figuratively delete us and has ignored requests to investigate the escalating violence against us. Only 18 states explicitly and comprehensively protect trans people from discrimination. Many other state lawmakers are focused on targeting us for more discrimination. In 2017, lawmakers in 22 states introduced more than 50 bills restricting the rights of trans people. Even as these lawmakers signal that we are not worthy of protection, we persevere. Most of us have already spent years in dark places wrestling with our truths, feeling ashamed of who we are. But when we manage to survive and even to love ourselves, we are stronger than ever. Try as they might, these lawmakers cannot erase us. Our rights will be hard won, but we are winning. Our community is resilient and our history of resistance runs deep. Following in the footsteps of Flawless, Major, Sylvia, Marsha, we fight back the way they did. We take care of each other. We tell our stories and we demand justice. Join the fight in courts, in state legislatures, in the streets, in the voting booths. Resistance is our birthright, the gift passed on from our elders. We carry the lessons of Cooper's, Stonewall, Compton's, and the many strategies that continue to give us hope and life. We have always existed, and we will continue to fight until we are all safe and free.
I was adopted by a white.
Thank you, everybody. Kaamila, I'm going to pass this over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, JP. So for everyone here, I want to offer a libation practice as a way of opening our space and calling in the supportive ancestors. Libation is the ritual practice of pouring liquid or sometimes grains, usually onto the earth, as a way to honor deities or ancestors. And it's a practice that's been found in many ancient and present cultures. It's been documented in ancient Roman practices. It's been found in the Asias, Americas, and throughout the African diaspora as well. So I'm going to be using a bowl to represent Earth. And I also invite you, if you want to be a part of this practice, wherever you may be, to grab a bowl, beverage of choice, so that you can pour. For the divine, the creator, by whatever name you may call her, I pour. Ashe. For Marsha P. Johnson. Ashe. And I want to invite the other folks on the panel to offer the names of those who they want to call into this space.
Virginia Prince.
Ashe.
For Rosa Argelia.
Ashe.
For Skylar Lee.
For Maya Angelou. Ashe.
For Mama Ofelia.
Ashe.
For Monica Roberts.
For Jean Valentine. Ashe. In the name of all of our spiritual ancestors who have shown us pathways to the divine and illuminated the divine within ourselves, we pour. Ashe. For all of our political ancestors who have opened doorways for us and who have broken down barriers and led the way for us, we pour. Ashe. In the name of each of our personal ancestors, those who have nurtured us, some who have not, whose intergenerational trauma we are healing, we pour. Ashe. For all of the ancestors, named and unnamed, we pour. Ashe. And for all of our community, those who can be here now, and for those who are not able, we pour. Ashe. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaamila. Next, I would like to read some words of acknowledgement about this space. Thank you, everybody who are joining us. We are going to read this words of acknowledgement. I am going to read these words of acknowledgement, and then we are going to get started with the program. This evening, we would like to solemnly recognize the hostile past and present faced by the queer individuals in the United Methodist Church, the same church that is in large part supporting and hosting this event tonight through the Boston University School of Theology, Methodist Seminary. The United Methodist Church does not condone the practice of homosexuality and considers this practice incompatible with Christian teaching. Based on this position, the church has also maintained restrictions regarding clergy. Pastors may not be self-avowed practicing homosexuals and may not conduct ceremonies that celebrate same-sex weddings or unions. Such ceremonies also may not be held on church property. These views were recently upheld by the latest United Methodist General Council and have led to the internal rupture within the United Methodist community. While we express deep and profound gratitude for the Boston University School of Theology for bravely and righteously opening its Zoom doors for us this evening, we also want to acknowledge the harm that continues to play out towards queer folks within the United Methodist denomination broadly. I am going to introduce our panelists today. There are some panelists that aren't here with us just yet, and they will be joining later in the evening. We will have 2 parts of our Q&A. We are going to have a first part with some pre-written questions. And I want to invite folks to put all of your questions that you have for our panelists in the chat. Around 9:05-ish p.m., we will be transitioning into the Q&A portion. So we will be able to ask some of the questions, hopefully all of the questions, but if not, some of the questions that you're submitting. And I highly encourage you to submit any questions that you have. To our panelists, we will do our best to get to each and every one of you for every question. However, because our time is limited, that may not be possible. So I want to encourage folks to find that balance between sharing what you feel prompted to share and as well as making space for other folks to share as well. And thank you all of you for being here tonight. I am going to quickly introduce our panelists, and I am later going to let them introduce themselves as well with a little bit of a quick lightning round / icebreaker. Here tonight we have Athena Vaughn. She uses she, her pronouns. And as the operations coordinator for the Massachusetts Trans Political Coalition, she organized and led June's Trans Resistance Rally and March.
Can I just stop there?
Yes.
I have not worked for MTP since about February of this year. So we can just take that part out.
Great.
We can do everything else after that.
Great. Athena, thank you so much. Athena is also known as Athena West, as a legend in the Ballroom community, has been doing work on behalf of the LGBTQ+ community for over 15 years. In recent years, she's worked with the transgender communities at Fenway Health as a consultant for the Life Skills Program, which is designed to help transgender women ages 13 to 29 manage everyday challenges like hormones, health risks, health insurance, and housing. She's also the Senior Transgender Health Navigator for Fenway Health / the AIDS Action Committee, has overseen the Transcend program. I want to welcome Athena. With us, thank you. With us tonight is also Chastity Bowick. Is a New England-based civil rights leader and transgender health advocate. She's currently the director of the Transgender Emergency Fund, the leading crisis agency for transgender communities in Massachusetts. And she is a committee member of the Boston Medical Center Transgender Task Force, among many other things. As born and raised in Rochester, New York, Chastity began her own transition early at the age of 18 when she moved to Boston to safely pursue her gender affirmation process. After making Massachusetts her home, she proudly obtained a master's certificate in nonprofit human services management from Clark University. Prior to her work with Massachusetts Transgender Political Coalition, Chastity led the transgender health programming at AIDS Project Worcester. Through her continued work, in 2019, she was recognized as one of Boston's 25 most influential LGBTQ+ people of color, presented by Get Connected. In October 2020, Chastity was presented with the Lavender Rhino Award at the History Project and the Audre Lorde Trailblazer Award by Fenway Health. She's committed to assisting with the advancement of transgender communities and all marginalized women, especially towards full equal rights. The constant disenfranchisement, it's a big word, sorry, faced by transgender and cisgender women within society is what motivates her as a female activist. I want to welcome Chastity Bowick. Joining us tonight also, we have Kaamila Mohamed. They use she, her pronouns. Kaamila is a psychotherapist residing in Philadelphia. Previously, she lived in Boston for many years, where she worked for an LGBTQ arts activism nonprofit and in diversity services at a university. Additionally, she was the founder and director of Blackout, an ensemble of young Black LGBTQ identified artists who perform original work, and as a founder and coordinator of Queer Muslims of Boston. Her professional and community roles have included community outreach, program planning and implementation, youth work, and being a theater practitioner, educator, facilitator, and public speaker. Central to all of her work is a commitment to community building, expressive practices, and liberatory healing. As a therapist, her areas of interest include attachment and relational healing, developmental and complex trauma, racial trauma, collective trauma, and intergenerational trauma, psychodrama, somatic practices, and decolonizing wellness. I want to welcome Kaamila Mohamed. Tre'Andre Valentine will also be joining us today. Tre'Andre uses he and they pronouns. They are a queer, transgender, Carib Indian, South Asian, and Black individual from the Caribbean island of Trinidad and Tobago. I'm so sorry. After graduating from Emmanuel College in Boston with a degree in psychology, Tre'Andre focused on anti-violence work in the LGBTQ+ community. They have over 10 years of experience in supporting LGBTQ+ survivors of domestic violence, grassroots organizing, community engagement, fundraising, training, facilitation, educational programming, and development, specializing in anti-oppression and LGBTQ+ inclusion. Organizationally, Tre'Andre is serving as the executive director of MTPC, and they've been working on their 3-year strategic plan to build more community power within trans, non-binary, and gender-expansive communities in Massachusetts. Personally, Tre'Andre is just trying to find their place and purpose in this world and follow the path of love. So we will welcome Tre'Andre when Tre'Andre gets here. So welcome, Tre'Andre, yay. We also want to welcome Jennifer Love Williams. Jennifer uses she, her pronouns. Jennifer is a formerly incarcerated Black trans woman, an entertainer and an activist. She founded the Gen Love Project and serves as chair of the formerly incarcerated subgroup of the National LGBT/HIV Criminal Justice Working Group. She's also a board member of the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls. Please join me in welcoming Jennifer. I need to take a sip of water because it's a lot of reading. Last but not least, I want to welcome Fong. Hi. They use they, them, their pronouns. Pai is a non-binary, genderqueer, transgender, queer, biracial, Asian American. They first became an LGBTQ activist in middle school, advocating for LGBTQ student rights. They moved from Colorado to Massachusetts for college and have made Massachusetts their chosen home. Since 2016, they have served as a steering committee member of the Queer Asian Pacific Islander Alliance. During the Yes on 3 campaign for transgender public accommodations protections, Pai served as the regional field director for Worcester and Western Massachusetts. Please join me in welcoming Pai. And that is our panel for today. So I am going to let the panel reintroduce themselves with the very first question for today. a fire round. So please repeat your name and pronouns and share with us what is something you've binged that has helped you survive. And who would like to get us started? I see Jennifer with a big smile. Go on, Jennifer.
Okay, I'll start. When you say, okay, my name is Jennifer Love Williams. Pronouns are she, hers. Something that I binged. Do you mean ever or during COVID?
It can be either. Whatever you're willing to share with us. If it's something more topical, you can share it with us as well.
Oh, okay. I'm just gonna go with current during COVID. These are both two old shows and one new show. One was Girlfriends, because it's on Netflix, and it has helped me to adjust to take accountability for some of my idiotic doings in past relationships. And the other one is Noah's Ark. So I had a bunch of them on my DVR. So I just binge watched the whole 2 seasons and the movie. And it made me have that zhuzh for the feeling of life, friendship, connection, and love without a relationship, a sexual relationship. And the last situation I binge watched on is a new one called P-Valley. It's just seeing the main character has just worked me up to see one of my community, the LGBT community, and a Black LGBTQ member who's the boss, who sets the rules. You work for them, and what they say goes. And that just felt like anytime I see any one of us in any movie or any show, and we are the boss, we're not the sidekick, or I'm here for it. So that's where I'm at right now.
Thank you. I'm gonna send this, if it's okay, to Chastity.
Good evening again. Chastity, she, her, and hers pronouns. And something that I've been during since COVID would be number one, P-Valley. I was gotten put onto that, and I can share Jennifer's intuition and why she watches it. And another one has been Wentworth, has been catching up on Wentworth. They finally got the newest season out on Netflix, so I've been catching up on that, and that has been really rejuvenating watching that, because I'm hoping to see some of these people in the current White House administration up in a Wentworth situation in real life. So that has been giving me life watching that as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I am going to send this to Athena, if that's okay.
Yes. Okay, I understand correctly. So, Athena, she, her, hers pronouns. I'm with Chastity. I have been binge watching Wentworth. So I'm the type of person where sometimes I think that the first seasons of some episodes can be a little boring. So I will skip to season 2, watch everything else, and then go back to season 1 and, just catch up. And so that's what I did. So I watched Wentworth from season 2 up to season 7 before season 8 came out. And then I watched season 8 and I was like, okay, let me watch season 1. Since season 2 through 8 is just so good, I'm going to go back and see season 1. So I watched season 1, and actually, I'm the type of person, again, that if the first episode doesn't catch me, I'm not going to watch it again. It's just, it got to catch me. And so season 1 caught me. And so my friend / sister who put me onto it, I actually had called her after the episode of season 1 and was like, girl, you didn't tell me that the governor dies after the first episode. And so she was like, yeah, girl, I told you it was good. And so I just kept watching it from there. And of course, Chastity got me into P-Valley. One night I was at her house. We was doing some work with stuff for TEF, and so she puts it on. And then I watched the first episode, and I was like, it's really good, but I'm the type of person where I have to watch it in my own time. So then I went to go get my hair done, and my grandmom is doing my hair, and so she's telling me about P-Valley, and she's like, I'm going to put it on, child. And I'm like, oh, God, like I want to watch it on my own. So she puts it on, and we watched the first 4 episodes. So she's on my hair. I go home and I literally just been watching the rest of it because it actually was just that good. So those are just 2 things that actually that I have been just doing just to keep me, uprooted, with COVID and things that are going on. And then also, I'm a Walmart shopping girl. If I need a breath of fresh air, I'm going to Walmart. And, I'm going there for some eggs, milk, and bread, and I'm coming out with $200 worth of groceries, candles, towels. It's just bad. So that's just some of the things that I have been doing during this season as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I am going to send this over to Kaamila.
Hey, I'm Kaamila Mohamed. I actually use a mix of pronouns, they, she, or anything else. During this pandemic, I've watched a lot of TV. I think it's definitely been one of the coping strategies or like escape strategies I've leaned on, but I've gone hard, I guess, into nerd TV. I watched old Twin Peaks, Firefly, Avatar: Last Airbender, Legend of Korra, and I've been watching Lovecraft Country as it's been coming out. It's over now, and I'm ready for more. So all that's been getting me through kind of like speculative fiction.
Thank you so much, Kaamila. And I'm gonna send it to Pi.
So my guilty pleasure is bad cooking shows, like the Sugar Rush, the like Chopped, all of those like ridiculous competition cooking shows. And then I have taken it into my personal life. We got a community supported agriculture share this like pandemic season, which has basically turned my daily life into Chopped. So I like to watch Chopped episodes for inspiration and then go just see what veggies are in my kitchen to make food.
Thank you. Yes, that sounds exciting. You get a box and you don't know what's in the box. You have to cook what's in the box. Do you mind sharing your name and pronouns, please?
Oh, I'm Pi. I use they, them, theirs pronouns.
Thank you so much. Awesome. And we'll let Tre'Andre introduce themselves when they get here, which will be very, very soon. So I say we jump in right with the questions. The very first question, well, the second question actually is, I want to ask folks, what is your definition of resilience? And what is your definition of strength? And in this case, I would like to send it to Kaamila first, if that's okay.
Sure. I think especially when we're talking about folks of our intersections of identities, when I think about resilience and strength, the first thing that comes to mind, honestly, is survival and existence. Like the fact that each of us has made it this far and we are who we are in the world. That is huge when so many of the structures are set up to not promote our survival. The other thing that comes to the top of my mind is authenticity. And that's not about, like needing to be out or things like that, right? We can complicate all of those ideas, but being able to be our true selves in a society that demands a lot of conformity and really limited ideas of what success looks like. So when I think about that, not just the fact of like being your most femme self in a society that values masculinity, or just like being your blackest self in a society that values whiteness, but also things like being sober in the queer community, or a lot of us are activists and there's this constant pressure to be giving, and things like saying no or like setting a bedtime for oneself. That's strength. And I think embracing our vulnerability, the things that make us human, our fragility, our mortality even, those are the things that are really scary in life. So I see those as true strength.
Thank you for sharing. I would like to invite somebody else to share.
So I really appreciated what Kaamila was saying. And like, for me, I think a lot of it comes down to strength comes from being willing to be vulnerable and ask for help. And I think that's like a huge piece for me of what a strong and resilient community is where people are able to ask for help and receive the help that they're looking for. And I think strength and resiliency really are community values and community existences, not necessarily personal traits that one person represents strength and resiliency. We need to have networks of strength and resiliency to help make sure that we can be stronger and more fulfilled in ourselves in the future.
Thank you. Would like to share next?
I'll go next. I would just like to say that first and foremost, yes, I would agree with Fi as well in saying that when you have strength, resiliency is strength. Having the strength to continue after you've been beaten by a man for being who you are. Strength and resiliency is having the ability to move forward after you're being told, no, you can't stay at this shelter because you look too manly. Having strength and resiliency is having the strength and the courage to persist on when you're trying to go get social services and they tell you, you can't change your gender marker on this ID because you don't look like a woman, you look too much like a man. Having the courage and the energy and the willpower to continue on is having strength and resiliency. And I feel like that we have that a lot in our community. We have continued to be persevered, overlooked, overshadowed, and we have continued to persist and to move on and to continue to fight for our rights.
Thank you so much, Chastity. I want to just pause here for a moment. I want to welcome Tre'Andre. I want everybody to join me in welcoming Tre'Andre. Hi, hello. I also want to give Tre'Andre the opportunity to introduce themselves. We already read your bio, but I would like for you to share with us your name, your pronouns, and something that you've binged that has helped you survive.
Hi, everyone. So excited to be here. My apologies. I have a program that runs every Thursday that goes through till 8:30. But my name is Tre'Andre Valentine. My pronouns are he and they. Something that helps me get through, honestly, I would have to say music. Music has been a really integral part of my life for a very long time. I'm started off as a musician, and it has definitely saved my life in many, many different forms through all the different traumas that I have experienced from childhood through adulthood. So that's just a little bit about me. And you already got my bio, so you know my business.
Thank you so much, Tre'Andre. The question that we're discussing right now is what is your definition of resilience? What's your definition of strength? And as I let you think about that for a moment, is it okay if I then send this over to Athena?
Say the question again, I'm sorry.
Yeah, what is your definition of resilience and what is your definition of strength?
Resilience. I think that the two go hand in hand because as Chastity was saying about being beat up and put down and walked over by society, you're thinking about not being able to walk in your truth and be who you are. And so you find yourself at a crossroad where you end up saying to yourself, it's either them or me. And so when I say it's either them or me, it's a battle within yourself because you have to figure out the outcome to your truth. And so you find the strength in being pushed around. You find the strength in being walked over. You find the strength in being talked about and mistreated and abused. So something in your core breaks to the point where you say to yourself, enough is enough. And so you find yourself fighting back. You find yourself making sure people understand that you are human, understand that you are loved, understand that you have a right to be who you are. You have a right to the same rights that everyone else in this world has, that you are smart, you are beautiful, you are strong, just like everybody else. And so for me, resilience takes me back to June, for years we've been resilient and fighting for others, but never taking the time to actually fight for ourselves. We've joined fights for gay marriage, we've joined fights for gay LGBTQ equality, we've joined, you know what I'm saying? But we never take time as trans individuals to actually be resilient and find the strength to actually fight for ourselves instead of what we usually have. What we've done for years is people will show that they care, people will show that they love, and so we give the power to them to be able to fight for us, to be able to so-called speak for us and say that they're going to help us and all this other stuff. And then we end up getting the short end of the stick at the end of the day. And so I'm looking at this year along with COVID and everything that's going on. And y'all, excuse me, it's hot in this kitchen because my God kids got me in here cooking. But you look at everything that's going on and you realize that 2020 is that year that sparked for trans people's uprising to find the resilience in ourselves, to find the strength in who we are as trans individuals of color, to be able to fight back and speak up and have them understand that we're no longer going to take this, to find the strength to continue to fight, to find the strength to continue to build family, to continue to build avenues for individuals like ourselves to be able to stand with those who say that we're not able to stand because of who we are, to realize that if you really look at it, the community walks on our backs. The community rises from our backs, from our shoulders, and the fights that we have stood for and the things that we have done in this world. And so that's what it means to me.
Thank you. Really great words. Thank you so much. Jennifer, I'm going to send this over to you. Would you like to share a little bit of what resilience and strength means to you?
I want to piggyback off. Can you hear me? I'm sorry. I want to piggyback off Athena. Resilience and strength do go together. Having one, you have the other. And resilience and strength is us. Mm-hmm. Being Black and being trans, you're put at the bottom of the totem pole, whether you're Black, for your Blackness and your transness. Yet, we've been here all the time. Most of what you have is because of us, but we're never given our credit, whether it's outside of the Black community or the Black community, or you call us to the table to sit here and get the grants, get the acknowledgement, but then you hand us this piece of the pie and send us on our way. You don't want us to be here to watch the pie get served or be able to cut your own piece. They want to give us what we want. And it's about due time that we do not sit here and just stay at the night. We sit here and stay in the day now and make our presence known. We shouldn't be, but we refuse to be the voiceless anymore. We're taking our moment in another way. We had to observe, adapt, and now we're here to conquer.
Yes, I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
I love that, Jennifer. I love that.
Yes.
I'm going to send this over to Tre'Andre.
For me, what I've learned, because in my life, I always thought that strength was something where it's that, you were stoic, you were unmoving, right? You were invulnerable. And that's simply not true. For me, strength is really about empathy. It's about vulnerability, and it's about kindness. And when I think about resilience, I think that it is even when you are beaten, even when you feel broken, even when you feel shattered and fragile, that there is still a pull, that you still feel a pull towards a purpose. And that purpose is about following your own path and living in your own truth and really staying within your own authenticity. And that through that, there is a lot of strength there. And through that, there is also a lot of love there. And to me, that is what makes up strength and resilience.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Tre'Andre. I heard so many beautiful words. I heard about being able to push through and being able to cope and conquer the different roadblocks that we encounter in life, and many of those roadblocks are because of our identities, because there exists racism, homophobia, biphobia, transphobia, in the compound of all of those identities. So I want to also remind our viewers that if you would like to ask a question, that you're able to do that on the chat, whether you are here on Zoom or you're watching us on Facebook or any other streaming platform. The next question that I want to ask our panelists is, if you can share with us a little bit of your life, a little bit of a moment in your life that you thought you weren't going to survive, but you did. How was that experience? And what helped you push through that? And what helped you survive? And if it is okay, I am going to send this over first to Chastity.
I would say for me, it was about 10 years ago, trying to leave an abusive relationship here in Boston and not having any resources available for me. I remember the first night that I tried to leave, I called the police, and 2 police officers came, and they clearly saw a woman, weave, bloody face, nails on. And because my ID didn't say female at the time, they just stated that this was 2 men having a disagreement, and we need to work it out. And they left me there with him. The next day I left when he went to work, and I tried to go to a local shelter here in Boston, a women's shelter. And after I disclosed that I was trans, I was told, the next question was from them was, how long have you been HIV positive? So it was automatically assumed she's Black, she's trans, she's HIV positive, which in return made me walk out the door and started sleeping on the streets, which turned into me turning into survival sex work, then survival drug use. And that was a point where my life could have been taken at the hands of one of my johns or some of the drugs that I was taking. And the only thing I could say that got me through was the anger that I had that there was nobody for me to look up to provide me these resources, to guide me out of the situation, to let me know that things are going to be okay. And so that had me thinking, like, how many other trans women are going through these similar situations or worse and having nobody to look up to, no resources for them? So I decided to pull myself together because I wanted to become that resource, because I didn't have it for myself. So that was the time I could say in my life that I really had to take a step back and realize by saving my own life, I could be saving other people's lives.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And this is a story that I feel like a lot of folks can also relate, is that there's many times during our lives that there isn't anybody that we can look up to for support. And part of that surviving is becoming those sources of support for other folks that might need them. I would like to open this question to any other of our panelists. Again, the question is, tell us a little bit about a time in your life where you think you might have not survived, but you did, about your experience and what pushed you through.
I'll go next. As you already know, I'm formerly incarcerated. Leading up to my incarceration, I realized that I wasn't perfect. So I was having some mental complications of accepting reality that I can't be perfect and I can't make everybody happy, let alone myself. When the incarceration started and the state took custody of me, only having me for a week and a half, they put me on a gang unit, the blood gang unit. And on the night of August 8th, 2009, I went to sleep and I felt an awkward feeling. Now, I already have my breast and everything else. I didn't understand why they put me on a gang unit, but hey, I just got to get this bit over with. And to feel this awkward feeling in my sleep and to wake up to somebody over me before I could even flinch, to be punched in the mouth, have my face smashed into a pillow, and to be sexually assaulted. everything in me, because I'm a fighter. And I became more of a fighter the more I came out and started becoming her. But at this moment in time, I felt helpless and I had nothing. So that morning, I'm sitting here, or afternoon rather, I'm sitting here and I got all this tissue in the crack of my ass because I'm still bloody. I don't know who to come to. And I asked, can I go to the mailbox? I wrote a letter home just stating that, to my mom actually, that I can't do this. I'd rather die. I come back and I go to sleep and I'm having this awkward feeling again. But this time, it wasn't one person waiting over me to sexually assault me. It's 24 hours later. What happened was they held me by the wrists and the ankles while 3 of them beat the shit out of me with combination locks, leaving me 3 months to heal. In DOC, they just covered it up because they didn't want to deal with the backlash of allowing that to happen to me. And at this point, my mail, I wasn't allowed to get any mail out. I wasn't allowed to make a phone call or anything. And I really had no one in this world. I felt God wasn't here for me because what the hell? I get the whole purpose of you only put on you what you can bear. What the hell? Where is this coming from? I'm already battling with not wanting to be here. And then I'm sitting here realizing that these MFers sexually desire me, are disgusted of my presence, or just don't want me to exist, period. And I refuse to let DOC or any fellow incarcerated person make me feel like shit. I think that at that moment in time is when the me that stands here right now had to come to terms, because I refuse to let all of you guys watch me fail and watch me off myself in here. I refuse. I'm about to let myself heal. I refuse to snitch, even though you already have everybody's written statements. So you got the whole scenario of what just happened to me. I'm going to rock this out and I'm going to get home, get out this shit, and never put myself in that predicament again. And I truly wish nothing but the best for all my attackers, because I'm going to be a better person. And from what you did to me, you will continue to suffer. Whether it's not going to be at the hands of me, somebody else is going to make sure that you're good in the way that you did it to me. It's sad, but that's the first time I really had to go into a survival mode. I've always had mommy and daddy not too far. Even when I moved away to start becoming her, they seen something on the news and got scary and hauled ass to New York to come find me, to bring me back home. But this one time, nobody can't do nothing. I'm by myself. I'm so much lacking of street knowledge. Book knowledge, yes. Street knowledge I didn't have. And I'm getting a crash course real fast.
Thank you, Jennifer. We love you. Thank you for sharing that.
If we can just take a moment, I know I'm not the host, but just take a moment to breathe. Just take a moment to breathe, because I don't know about y'all, but that right there it's just, I had to turn my camera off for a second just to breathe, because that is real. That's real. That's real. Jennifer, we love you, and that is real. That's real.
Just know you telling your story is helping out other trans women of color, knowing that if they are incarcerated, that they're gonna be okay and they're gonna get through this. So thank you, Jen.
I also want to send all the love from the chat. I see many folks in the chat sending you love. Have Kashana, Gladys, Marsha, Tre'Andre, many folks. Charlene, thank you. And these are the realities, right? This is what we need to talk about. And this is why we're here. I would like to make space for one more panelist to share a little bit about their experience and how they survived before we move on to the next question.
So I'll talk about, I remember when I was escorting when I was much, much younger. I'm not that old now, but, and so I wasn't privy to working off the internet or anything like that. I was from the hood and I'm working the streets, Blue Hill Ave, Dorchester Ave to be exact. And I remember it was a hard night, and just to even scrape something together from the guys that were coming to see me was like a miracle to get me through to the next day to eat and stuff like that. And I remember there was a boy, and you know, when I don't want to say when you're freshly trans, but when you first start to come into yourself and start to accept who you are and feel beautiful and stuff like that, and guys pay you compliments, it sometimes feels like just heaven to you. And so this guy paid me a compliment, and I said thank you, and then he kept having a conversation with me. And then I'm thinking that, you know, this could be a great conversation. Maybe we'll exchange numbers. Maybe we'll have something after this or whatever. Of course, you know, in the back of my mind, I'm like, of course, you know, I'm not going to tell him that I'm trans right now because he might attack me out here. And, you know, again, I'm from the hood. I will fight back if I got to, but that's not what I'm out here for. I'm out here to make my money. That's not, you know, what I'm here for. And I remember that he pulled out a gun on me and asked me for every dime that was in my purse. And I remember standing there and saying to myself, either he's getting your money or you're keeping it. Either you're dying or you're going to walk up out of here. And so I don't know what it was. I want to say that it was just the strength of God that was with me. And I remember I looked at him and I was like, if you want this money, you're going to have to kill me at this point, because it's hard out here. I can't, it's already almost 4 o'clock in the morning, and everyone knows it starts to die down around 5. And if you take every dime I get, I probably won't be able to make anything to get home or eat or anything. And I remember standing there after saying that and him lifting up the gun higher and the police pulling up and pulling over right in front of us. And so the police officer said, is everything okay here? And so he turns to the cops to basically lie and say that I'm his girlfriend. He's just making sure that I'm good. And so while he's not paying attention, the cop is looking at me and I'm going like this to tell him everything is not okay. And so the cop, he's like, steps out of the car and he was like, can you step away from her and everything? And I remember they arrested him. Of course, they saw the gun and everything finally when they got closer and everything. But I just remember standing there and just thinking to myself, is this the end? And so you realize that things like this happen growing up in the hood when you watch movies and stuff like that. You see people who are like drug addicts dealing with people trying to rob them or trying to kill them because they owe them money and stuff like that. But you never see an instance where a girl is just trying to survive. She's just trying to make ends meet to be sure that she can eat tomorrow, be able to do what she needs to do tomorrow. And so it just reminds me of just everything that goes on in this world, and you're thinking about just surviving. And it's disheartening because you can't find the time to move past just surviving. You can't find the time to be happy. You can't find the time to enjoy life because you're so worried about, once again, surviving the night, surviving the day, surviving the hour sometimes. And so you think about all that, and you just really, I'm really grateful and I'm humbled to have family and friends that I've developed over the years to be able to say thank you just for being there, because this road is hard, especially for trans women of color. This road is hard. This society is hard, but that gives me the strength. That day forward, I always said that I fear no man but God. And since the Bible tells us God is not a man, he's a spirit, I fear no man. So that day gave me my courage to be like, listen, I'm not holding my tongue for nobody. I don't care who you are. And I say that not in a disrespectful way, but it's one of those things where it's like, if you feel like you can talk to me, if you feel like you can treat me in any type of way, know that I'm going to come back at you twice as hard. I'm going to try to do it in a respectful way, you know, as Athena would. But if you get the Mother Beulah, the mother grandma out of me, you just get that. And there's nothing I can do about that. You know what I'm saying? Because that's who I am. But I think about that and I realize that, you know, this shit is real. This shit is real. I don't care how passable you are. I don't care how real you are. It just takes one mistake It's one person telling your tea, one person sharing something that they should not share. That's not their business. You know what I'm saying? I had to have conversations with friends and family before about like when they talk about supporting my community and they go, oh yes, I have a cousin that's transgender. That is not your place to do that. That is not your place to share that information. That is my place to be able to do that if I'm comfortable enough doing it. And I'm also just not going to share that with strangers. I don't care how many marches I'm in. I don't care how many newspapers I'm in. Once again, that is still my place, my truth to talk about. And no one is going to make me live in my truth in a way that I'm not comfortable with. So yeah.
Well, thank you, Athena. Thank you all for sharing a little bit of your stories and your lives. And one thing that I heard in many of your stories is that moment of snapping, of like, oh, excuse my language, but oh shit, right? Like, this is it. I have to like stand up. I have to like keep going. I have to do this. I have to survive. And so many folks actually reach into um, our spirituality. Actually, some of you shared a little bit of that. So the next question is, what spirituality looks like for you or has looked like for you before? And I saw Tre'Andre making space for Athena, so I'm going to send this to Tre'Andre first.
Thank you. I feel like, so I was raised Roman Catholic, and that has been a place of a lot of shame and a lot of blame for some of the experiences that I had experienced as a child witness of domestic violence, the experience of being a childhood survivor of sexual abuse, the experience of being an adult survivor of rape, the experience of being a survivor of domestic violence. And I have never, ever found any sort of solace or comfort within Catholicism. And it's been something that my family has tried, particularly my mom, has tried to really shove down my throat, that I need to pray and that I need to, like, I am like this because I haven't gotten over what has happened to me. I'm like this because I'm not going to God and I'm not praying when that's something that doesn't resonate for me. I have found spirituality in other people. I've found spirituality in chosen family. I've found spirituality in music. I've found spirituality in nature. I've found spirituality in every place except organized religion. And I'm still trying to find my own way, my own path, my own figuring out what my own rituals are. You know, as someone who is Indigenous, I'm Carib Indian, part Carib Indian, I don't even know what spirituality within my own Indigenous community looks like. It's something that I'm still searching for. So for me, spirituality is about a journey of really finding my own self and finding truth and finding love.
Thank you, Tre'Andre. Spirituality is, I love what you said. Spirituality is the journey of finding oneself, but we're spirits, right? We're vessels. So that spoke to me. Thank you so much. I would like to send this over to either Kaamila or Pi. Would either of you would like to share? Go for it, Kaamila.
So I also grew up raised within an organized religion. I was raised Muslim and a child of a Somali immigrant, a country that is almost 100% Muslim. And I feel deeply mixed about that experience. In some ways, what I learned about my religion was its beauty, and the ritual, the community, even the aesthetics and things like that are things that really evoke spirituality to me, and still to this day. I was also raised in a version or interpretation or like twisting of religion to justify a lot of sexism, to justify family abuse, to justify homophobia, ultimately to justify like casting me out of family and like wishing death and even more terrible things upon me, right? Which is just like so not at the core of what I feel religion is, and my religion, or any spiritual path, right? Because like at the core of any spiritual path is connection with the divine, and the divine is like pure love and pure goodness and light. It's in all of us. It is us. For me personally, like I never felt a need to go away from the religion I was born into, and I never felt that I had to reconcile. Like I always had a sense of like God wants me to be who I am. God made me queer. God wants me to be a really outspoken feminist and to challenge injustice, because it could not be any other way, you know? Like we were created to bring good to the earth. So yeah, I've continued to find spirituality in those traditions, but particularly through queer Muslim community. I think that's been a really beautiful source of the communal aspect of religion, which I really enjoy. But also, I draw upon a lot of sources that have meaning to me. Ever since I was a kid, I was like into witchcraft. I'm definitely like one of those queers who loves crystals and tarot and all of those things. And I really see witchcraft or anything coded that way as really knowledge, medicine, and science that femmes and women through history have been the keepers of and have passed down. And I really find spirit in nature in general. Even though I draw a lot of strength and see beauty in my identities, sometimes I also just want to not be of my bodily existence and just connect to what really is universal and like light and just joyous. So I often find that in nature as well.
Thank you for sharing. Totally. We are part of nature, right? So it makes sense to go to nature, in a sense, back to nature, as we are so surrounded by things that, you know, aren't really real, you know, not real, natural.
I mean, I want that wig to be a part of my spirituality.
Totally.
Lovely.
Well, that but also drag, you know, and presentation, and you know, like this is me, you know, adoring, you know, my goddess self. So totally, I totally get that. Hi, I would like to send this question over to you, if that's okay.
Yeah, so my experience is a little bit different. I was raised in a culturally Christian, but religiously very agnostic household. And I sought religion as a young child, like very aggressively. Like I wanted to know why all my friends got to go hang out with each other on Sunday and I didn't get to go with them. I wanted to understand what this mythical God thing was that they were talking about because it sounded really cool on paper. But as I got older, and particularly in coming into my queer and trans identities, what I realized was I wasn't seeking religion, I was seeking connection, right? So I felt really isolated. And so a lot of it was, where did I find community? Where did I find people who celebrated me and supported me? And, you know, my answer is, you know, I joke, I say this very jokingly, not to denigrate religion, but to talk about how I connect spiritually. Like, I am religiously a queer Girl Scout. Like, those are my religious pieces of my identity. Like, my queer community, when I am feeling spiritually drained, that's who I want to connect with. When I am feeling spiritually drained, there's nothing I love more than going out with my Girl Scout troop to be in nature, right? Like, those are my religious experiences and my religious moments and my spiritual moments. And so it's been a lot of like going from someone who was seeking religion so much to being someone who was rejected from religion because of my identities, to finding sort of my own religious spaces, or the spaces for me to have spiritual connections and moments. And, you know, in ways that I didn't expect, you know, like even conversations today about like connections with ancestors is something that like, I would have never had those conversations with those frameworks without my queer POC community teaching me both about, you know, non-white Western practices that have led to this, and holding that as part of our queerness as well. So that's a little bit about my story.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Seeking connection, I feel like it resonates with a lot of us. And I saw basically everybody who has their video on nod very enthusiastically when you were saying those words, like, yes, connection. Which I want to stay in the area of spirituality, but add maybe a little bit to that question, what spirituality looks like for you. But also, spirituality is usually celebrated in community, right? Seeking connection. So I want to invite maybe Jennifer, I'm going to send this to you if that's okay, to tell us what spirituality looks like for you, but also how you and your community nurture and support one another, how you celebrate your triumphs and how you mourn your losses.
I think that for me, that the spirit, the spirit, I can't get the word out. Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right.
Don't judge me. You get what I'm trying to say.
Damn right we do.
I have now, I had to find it within myself, because what I can say is, for me, I spent so much time just with what I was taught and what was presented to me, and never seeking on my own. And before I could even seek on my own, I had to first learn me. Even during my transition, there was still a lot of me that I didn't know. I didn't put the love for me first, which loving myself finally lets me know myself and allowed me to unlearn what I've always been taught and what has been put in front of me. And upon that, I realized that there's so many other people that thoughts and process is just like mine, or similar to mine, that's in my community. May it be Black, or may it be LGBTQ, or may it be just my city or my neighborhood. And that allowed me to do some connections that I never got to do before. And I don't have to know who you just lost, but you still have my sympathy and my empathy, because I have lost some as well. And this, when you do good, I'm doing good. You're my neighborhood, so that makes my neighborhood looks good. You're my city, you make my city look good. If you do big things, especially for my state, you make my state look good. When you're sitting here and I see positive other Black people, you don't have to be on the biggest scale. People think that to do good or to do something that's important, it got to be on a grand scale. Everything got to get somewhere. It starts somewhere, rather. So me seeing some of the kids or young men and women that I grew up with and everything else saying, y'all are doing good. Not just doing good, I mean doing good for the community. I get excited when I see one of my LGBTQ sisters and brothers doing the damn thing, and not just to get a buck in your pocket, but doing the damn thing for us. I get excited, and God damn it, I'll be overjoyed when I see my trans sisters and brothers get up here and achieve, and not just for self, but for the rest of us. Because it takes a village, and together we can move mountains. All these things just get me so excited, and taking the time out to realize that, especially when it comes to all my trans sisters and brothers, regardless of what race, what culture, or what religion we were born into, and we still practice, we're at the bottom of the totem pole together. And together, as a collective, We can do so much. Don't focus on what's different. Focus on what we share in common, and a common denominator that we have, our common enemies, and let's sit here and move to the top. And that shit just makes me moist on the inside.
Thank you. I'm right there with you as well. I love that. I would like to send this over, if that's okay, to Athena. The question was, what spirituality looks like for you, and can you tell us how you and your community nurture and support one another? You're muted.
Everyone who knows me knows that I'm an ordained minister. Grew up in the Black Baptist Pentecostal Apostolic Church. Tongue speaking, fire baptized, all that good stuff. So spirituality for me growing up was a big, big thing. And I had to learn and teach myself how to get to know Christ for myself. Stop worrying about what it is that people were saying around me. Stop worrying about what people thought around me. I remember, and I tell the story all the time, and some of my friends are always laughing. My grandmother was old school. My family is rooted from the South. I was born in Alabama, moved here when I was 6. And my grandmother was from Columbus, Georgia. So, it's just like in there. And so I remember the year that gay marriage was approved and everything. And it was raining real bad in Vermont. And I came home from work. And I remember I came in the living room, just said hi to her and everything. She was like, you know why it's raining so badly in Vermont? And I was like, why is it raining so badly in Vermont, Grandma? She's like, because God is angry that the gays are getting married. So I remember standing in the living room, staring at her like, I said, Grandma, that's not how this works. That's not how this works at all. And so I remember she was like, well, you're new, getting to know God. I've known him for years, and I know this is why he's angry. And so I said, no, Grandma, that's not how this works. I was like, remember the Bible says he told Noah that the next time that he would destroy the earth, it would be by fire. He said he wouldn't do it by water this time, remember? And so I remember she was like, just get out of my room. And I was like, go to my room, whatever. But it was that day that I realized that I have to get to know God myself. I have to find my spirituality, not through my grandma, not through my granddad, not through my brothers, not through my sisters, not through my friends, but for myself. Because I got tired of people using scripture, using the word or what they believe to beat me, to make me feel depressed, to make me feel unwanted, to make me feel unloved. And when I came into this community, I realized that I was not the only one dealing with that. That there were a lot of people out there who grew up with the same background as I, and were dealing with the same thing. And to be able to dialogue, to be able to unpack with them, to be able to talk and laugh and talk about your experiences and everything made me feel like this is a community that, regardless of what anyone thinks and says, we're gonna thrive, we're gonna strive. Quoting the scripture loosely, the Bible says iron sharpens iron. You need your people who have gone through what you have gone through. You need your people who have experienced what you have experienced, have heard what you have heard, have done some of the same things that you have done to strengthen you when you're feeling weak, when you're feeling like you can't go on, when you're feeling like what if or why. You need that. And so for me, the community aspect comes in because I don't know it all. I don't know it all. I can read that Bible from Genesis to Revelations, and I can sit in everybody's church and kick up Messiah, he's coming in a Honda with everybody else. But at the end of the day, I'm not better than nobody else. I'm not better than nobody else. My community needs love. And it is a shame that people have used organized religion. People have used their faith and their beliefs to actually kill people, to beat people, to abuse them, to destroy their character, to destroy their happiness, destroy their joy. And so community for me is that we're banding together to rebuild that, to rebuild it where it's sustainable enough that no one can tear it down again. You know what I'm saying? The generation that's coming up now, the generation that I'm coming in, no one's taking that stuff anymore. No one's taking it anymore. I know that I go to church now, and it's bad to say, but when the preacher starts preaching against homosexuality and everything, I just start laughing. Because you sound ridiculous. You sound ridiculous. I remember I joined the church and we went to go hear some preachers preach, And there was a platform service, so there was about 7 speakers. And when we came into church, she had realized that 2 of the boys I was with was gay. And she gets up to preach and she says, God changed her message. I said, oh, all right. God's changing messages. Here we go. And then she says, to the book of Leviticus. I immediately rolled my eyes like, I know where this is going. So she starts preaching, and it just, the way she starts preaching, it's just like, I wanted to stop her and be like, where are you getting your information from? She starts preaching about butt plugs and sodomy and all this other stuff. And I'm sitting in the audience like, where are you getting this from? You assume that because you may have seen something or heard something that everybody in a community is into that, and that is not, that's not what this is. That's not what this is at all. You know what I'm saying? You have your whole wires crossed. First of all, girl, you don't know me, and I don't like butt plugs. I didn't have a drink until I was 21. You don't know me. You don't know what I like. But you're up here assuming because you met someone or heard something that this is what everybody in this community of the LGBTQIA is doing. No, honey, no. You know what I'm saying? And then she was white, and you're in a black church, and you're just going left. What if I got up and preached about white people cooking meth inside trailer parks? Because it's something that I heard, not something that I've experienced, not something that I've seen, but something that I've heard that you do. You know what I'm saying? Where are we going with this? You're not serious. It was so bad that when she was done, the pastor had to get up and do like a breathing session. Just everybody breathe and shake yourself. And then when she realized that nobody was with her, she packed up her stuff and she walked out the church. You can go, sis. You can go. But also we can have a conversation outside this church if you'd like as well. Because I'm gonna beat your ass in Jesus' name. But what are you thinking? What are you thinking? Out of one mouth, you're telling people that this God of love loves you beyond immeasurable doubt. He loves you no matter what. And then on the same breath, you turn around telling them that sodomy and they're going to hell. You don't know what these people are doing in the bedroom. You don't know what these people are doing in the bedroom, honey. You don't know what they do in the bedroom, honey. You come to my bedroom at 4 o'clock in the morning. Most of the time I'm rolling over passing gas to get comfortable to go back to sleep. You don't know what I'm doing in my bedroom. Mind your business. First of all, what I'm doing in my house where I pay my bills. You have no right to judge someone based on something that you've heard. And so, to quote a scripture loosely again, in all things, the Bible says, you do get an understanding. Get to know, learn from your ignorance. People of color have always been called ignorant, have been called stupid, all things measurable under the sun, because we never take the time to actually sit back as human beings and actually listen and learn. We'll hear something and then we run with it like a relay race. And that is just completely wrong. And so this community has so much power. This community has so much authority. This community has the power to mobilize. And I always say when people will be like, oh, the LGBT community is bad. No, baby. The world is bad. The people in the world who do stuff are bad, but that doesn't mean the world is bad. The people in the community might do bad things, but that doesn't mean the whole community is bad. You cannot blame the community for what one person might do. That's it.
I can't follow that. Thank you, Athena. So I want to give some space to Chastity. Chastity, if you would like to share a little about what spirituality means to you and how you, you and your community nurture and support one another.
Well, there's not much to say after Athena. I share a lot of her sentiments regarding spirituality. But as someone whose family, I grew up in the church and being condemned before I was even out as myself or who I am was kind of
I lost my way when it comes to spirituality. At some point, I had lost faith in the church system and God. But over the last 6 years, I can say I have redeveloped my faith. In parts that helps with part with my sister Athena, also just building community. I think that we oftentimes forget that we have the option to choose our family and the people we surround ourselves with, since we are oftentimes shunned from our own families. And so I think a lot of times we lose that aspect of healing and what community looks like, what a family looks like, because family often turns hand to hand with spirituality. And I can say I have found that within the community here in Boston. There is an organization called Power Church House Boston, that is ran by two gay men and two gay men of color, shall I say, more specifically, who can relate to things that happen and goes on in Black families. There are different types of spirituality, especially within the Black community. It's very deep within the LGBTQ and the do's and don'ts, and not in my family, and you're going to hell and being condemned. So I think that it's very vital that we find spirituality within ourselves, within our communities, because we need that to survive. We need that part of our soul to be healed and to be touched. So I think that I encourage everyone to try to find spirituality in one form or another.
Thank you, Chastity, for sharing that. I hear you that it's important to find that spirituality and to find those connections. Athena actually already answered one of the questions that our viewers are sending in. One of our viewers asked, how can leaders of faith communities of all traditions support you and uplift your voices? And one thing that I heard Athena, or many things that I heard Athena say, is like, don't make the assumptions and figure out where you're getting your information and get to know the communities that you're leading, that you're preaching to, that you're talking to, that you're in. I also want to open this question to the rest of our panelists. How can leaders of faith communities support BIPOC, transgender, non-conforming folks, and folks in the LGBTQ community, and uplift our voices?
I think first it starts with how checking your misogyny, remembering the space that you're entering is not yours. You know what I'm saying? Coming in with an open mind and understanding. And if you're really claiming to actually be showing the love of God or whatever entity it is that you believe in, that you're coming to show that true love, to actually come in actually humbled, to learn, to find the space to be able to understand and to learn of a community that y'all have condemned for years. You know what I'm saying? I remember I was watching the news and I can't remember what it was, but I remember, I don't know if it was the election or if it was something that was going on in the world. And there was a Catholic priest and some of his flock that was there with signs. And before, I was about to be very judgmental, like, oh God, this is not the time for y'all to be out here talking about God hates fags and all, please. But then the news anchor woman was like reading the posters and they were apologizing, saying sorry for how they've treated individuals of the LGBT community, apologizing for the slanders and the hates that they have put out in the name of God or the entity that they believe in. And I was just in a little bit of amazement and awe that that takes guts. Mm-hmm. It takes guts to be able to know your faith and belief in everyone around you that believes the same thing that you believe, to be able to still say, I'm still standing firm on this, and let you know that I apologize. Because when you study scripture, Christ never came to offend. He came to help. He came to exalt. He came to push. You know what I'm saying? And that's what the church or religion or faith has forgotten. And so that's the first thing that I think that faith-based community leaders can actually do, is you come in humble. You come in ready to learn. You know what I'm saying? We're taught in church growing up is that you're rolling up your sleeves and putting on your gloves to get your hands dirty because you're here to help. That should be extended to everybody, regardless of race, color, religion, sex, sexuality. You know what I'm saying? And so I think for me, that's what I think helps.
Thank you. Is it okay if I send this question over to Pi? Would you like to answer how um, leaders of faith can support and uplift our voices?
Yeah, I mean, I agree so much with what Athena has said of, get to know the community, work with us, not for us, be in genuine relationship with us feels really important. But I also think the rhetoric matters. How we talk about LGBTQ people matters so much. Not that, they're doing us a favor by letting us back in, but right, like they're making those reparations that we can be a part of their faith communities again feels really important. And as a non-binary person who really does not identify as a woman or a man, really thinking about what are your gender expectations and how does this space welcome people of all genders?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you so much. We have a couple other questions, but I want to pass this very quickly to Kaamila if you would like to add something to this question.
Yeah, I just had a quick kind of thing to build upon the offering so far. Athena's notes on humility and accountability, and Pi, your note about rhetoric really spoke to me, because when you asked that question, or the audience member offered this question, the thing that immediately came to my mind was having interacted with religious spaces or religious leaders who think it's good enough to kind of just be like, oh, you can come, but you can come invisibly, or we're not going to say that we support you, but we won't cast you out, or we won't say that we'll hate you either. That is not good enough. That support has to be explicit. It's not enough to have this very watered down tolerance. That language and action needs to be affirming and celebrating and genuinely not just inclusive, like I was saying, bringing someone in, but truly of us.
Jennifer, you're muted, but I would love to hear what you have to say. Oh, no, you went away. Oh, there you are.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Go for it.
What I do want to say to the to people who are seeking a spiritual leader, I know there's going to be a lot of times, even in 2020, when we still have leaders, spiritual leaders that will make us feel less than, make us feel unwanted or demonic or pedophilish. Just because someone is at a pulpit or wherever they may be supposedly giving the word, everyone does not live righteously as they sit there and do condemn other people. In other words, what I'm saying is every so-called leader, religious or otherwise, is not always a leader. So please do not let one person or a bad handful of apples that supposedly religious leaders lead you away from religion. If that is truly your thing and you are truly about your spirit, your spirit out, you get what I'm saying? Do not let no one lead you from your faith. There is always going to be another around the corner, down the block. You don't have to be in a big mega situation. You could be in a small denomination that's sitting right here in somebody's living room every Sunday, but guess what? You walk away feeling full. And that's what's important. So don't let no one turn you away from bad or ill leadership who makes you feel uncomfortable. That's what I want to say. I know that especially for us in the Black community, a lot of us have turned away from religion. I'm 44, so a lot of me not wanting to be no longer in the church with my uncle is because I didn't know how to process the things that I was hearing. So I sat here and solely focused on Catholic Church because that's the schooling that I'm in. And I felt comfortable and I'm fine. I never felt unwanted. However, I went to some other churches and I'm here for services and stuff like, I mean, like a funeral or a wedding. What does what you talking about now, just because you've seen a group of us come in here? Wow. But it never deterred, it never pushed me away from religion. I have my questions and I question some things, but it never pushed me away. But what I also realized is that my higher being doesn't always have to be in a structured settlement over here. He and or she or and they is sitting right beside me right now. So I don't need you to guide me. I will find my voice within. I have no problem talking to him. I have no problem just sitting here listening to him, her, or they, whichever the spiritual being is. You do not have to follow one person and just please don't let them push you away like so many have pushed so many others away. There's so many open, not just even being open religious leaders. There are so many that are actually identifying LGBTQ plus trans people. So if that's the reason why you're letting them push you away, trust me, you can go online even before COVID got here. Don't let no one push you away from your religion because of a few ill-advised so-called spiritual leaders. Oh, I got it out.
Thank you so much. That idea of trying things out, if something doesn't fit and if something doesn't, that's the word. Yeah, if something doesn't fit, to go find something that fits you, that fits the path that you're in, right? Because you know your own path better than anybody else. And trying things on can be really scary, can be really difficult. And this is a great segue to another of our questions from the audience. Somebody have asked, I've been or am seen as femme, and I'm trying to experiment with my expression, but I'm struggling. What allows or have allowed you to try new things, clothes, pronouns, spirituality, etc.? How do you free yourself to try? And I'm going to send this over first to Tre'Andre, if that feels okay. Maybe?
Sure. Gosh, that's such a personal thing. That's such an individual thing. Like, what frees you to try? I think it was for myself really who I surrounded myself with, right? The people who I felt loved me the most and who expressed their acceptance of me regardless, that I felt able to then fully free myself. Really, it was the decision that I made, like regardless of what anybody else thinks of me, I am going to do this because this is what I feel called to do. This is who I feel called to be. This is who I am. And as I remember, I grew up watching Xena, Warrior Princess. Not gonna lie, that show helped me actually live in my authenticity, honestly, because that show was really actually a journey of friendship and a journey of discovery and a journey of, and also a journey of redemption. And seeing such a powerful woman be vulnerable and be who she is, and had to go through all of the trials to discover that really her even the violence that she created, that her place was as a warrior, and that's who she is, and that's who she actually needed to be. And so Xena the Warrior Princess helped me be free.
Awesome. Thank you, Tre'Andre. What an amazing answer. I love that so much. I would love to open this up to another one of our panelists if you'd like to answer this question. Otherwise, there's a couple other questions I can ask.
I'll answer. Can you repeat it one more time just to make sure I'm proper before I
Sure,
say?
totally. Let me condense it down for you. What allows or have allowed you to try new things, clothes, pronouns, etc.? How do you free yourself to try?
In all honesty, the only thing that's standing in your way is you, with the exception of you being a minor. But mentally, it starts within you, and you can't be afraid of change. You will know when it's your time for you to be you, and you will be so adamant and comfortable mentally and emotionally to express that and understand, especially if it's when it comes to a trans situation. No one can tell you what's in your mind and what's in your heart. Not even a gay situation. Nobody can tell you what's in your mind and your heart. You have to be ready for this moment to take form, and you can't look back. You can't let no one talk you out of it, because if you do, you're gonna let it manifest inside of you to something that's ill when you know what your heart and your mind is. So the change starts, and you know when it's you. And please do not follow the girl next door or the boy next door or the them days next door. Everyone has their own path under this trans umbrella, under this LGBTQ plus IA umbrella. We all have our own journey. You will find your calling within you when you are ready, and don't let no one tell you otherwise. You have a community around. I can't speak for where you're located, but it's a community around, even virtually, to sit here and reach out to. No one can tell you you're wrong. No one can tell you, oh, that's not for you. Trust me, anyone you looking up here who feeling comfortable in our skin, oh, trust and believe. But for myself, I didn't start off this way, but I knew I couldn't go backwards, and you will know the same.
If I can add, and both those answers were so beautifully put. I think this question is just very near and dear to my heart as someone who identifies as fluid, and so is showing up differently in the world on different days or using different pronouns or what have you. And it took me a long time to get comfortable in fluidity, which I think is kind of funny because a lot of times in our queer communities, we have this politic of like, there's no binary and, you know, be you. But we sometimes forget that like these things can be fluid over a lifetime. Like we are always allowed to change. Life, inshallah, is it's like you have time, and at a certain point I think it got to like with trying on new ways of dressing, things like that, like it can be hard, especially like believe it or not, there was a time that everyone was like, oh Kaamila, you're a stud, because that's like how I showed up in the world every day, like dressing in this different way. It might get reactions, it might get confusion or shock or even demeaning reactions, but I think thinking about like, do you want to live your whole life and never having even tried what it felt like to try on those new clothes or to try on those new pronouns or to say this is who I am. And like it's that thing of like the regret might be more painful than the discomfort of trying something new. And you might find something that really works for you and is really beautiful and affirming, or you might be like, oh, this is not me. And that's okay too. I think something else that really does help, I was really blessed to have like cheerleaders in my life, like finding those cheerleaders, those couple of folk, or just that one who can be like, this is the day you use new pronouns at work. You got this. Like community again, even if it's just like one person or like one internet friend or something like that, can be so affirming in exploration.
Totally. Thank you so much for that answer. I think that even now in times of COVID, um, there's been many changes in which community can be found, especially because now we've seen how there's many things accessibility wise that we could have been doing all along. You know, like even like finding community online, finding community from um, a computer, from a phone, from another device. So I want to ask, and this would be the last question: how have how are things different during COVID? How are communities that you're part of evolving during this virtual time to find that connection and to live that spirituality? And if it's okay to send this over to Chastity.
I would say things are very different during COVID, especially for the trans community, for a community that is oftentimes, most times, overlooked. During a lot of things, I think we are overlooked during COVID as well. I think that our homeless trans folks are suffering even more. The lack of resources now, so limited resources that were available are now moving towards COVID. I can say for us here in Boston, the Transgender Emergency Fund, we have been applying for COVID relief funds to be able to keep trans folks who lost their job due to COVID working in retail and hospitality, to be able to stay in their apartments or get them off of the street. I think it's very important now that we support each other even more so, not only due to COVID, but also due to this upcoming election. We have to come together and stick together as a community. And just like I believe Athena and Jen was saying earlier, we have to put aside, the differences that we have within ourselves with our transition, how we look, how we sound, because we're always going to look different and sound different. So we have to put that to a side so we can be there for our sisters and brothers and they and them in between, because it's just so important. And I feel like COVID has heightened community for trans folks. I see a lot of people coming together more. There's also, COVID has also heightened drug use within the trans community. It's more now, more Tina parties going on, and people are getting together to do different things that they probably wouldn't do if they didn't have COVID, like forcing people to just do nothing. So I think that it's very important for these organizations to come up with more resources and more programs to assist the LGBTQ community during this time, whether that's virtual, whether that's, putting the proper PPE in place to have things in person. You can have things in person if you're following the proper protocols and guidelines. It may not be a lot of people, but it's a start to just let the community know we're still here, we have programming for you, and that we want you to be safe during these times.
Totally, thank you. I'm going to open if any other panelists would like to share their experiences about how community has changed during COVID.
I want to piggyback off of Chastity. As you know, the trans community has been under fire for a long time, but especially in the recent years, with the murders of trans sisters and brothers of color. We know that we was out and left out of a lot when it comes to COVID help, even before COVID got here, but definitely during COVID. And what a lot of people are failing to realize is that a great deal of the trans community is suffering through mental situations. Can you imagine what it's like to sit here and be a trans person and sit there and be out of everything? You have nowhere to live. You really have no one to talk to. And if you have a place to stay, a place to be safe at and sleep at night, you're confined. Everybody doesn't have the luxuries that a great deal of us do have. So can you imagine how much mentally is draining on the trans community? I'm going to say for a great deal of people, but my main concern is the trans community. I know that between these 3 states, I've talked to a few girls who have expressed losing their minds, and everybody's medical providers are not offering telehealth or either sit on the phone and have a talk. So it's up to us as sisters and brothers who have the time to sit out there and reach and talk, providing they have a phone for you to talk on, or can get under a Wi-Fi situation. That's another big component that's so overlooked. When this COVID first hit, COVID had sat here, I immediately seen funds go up. I mean, programs go up for everything else. Then it became the LGBTQ situation. And then lastly, it became the trans situation. And even when the trans did go to reach out during the phase of the entire LGBTQ umbrella being offered a little bit of help, you don't let us suffer and told us no for so damn long. You know, if we're even hanging on, we're blessed. And mentally, health-wise, it takes a toll on a great deal of the girls. And most medical providers who do assist us, they're not going above and beyond to make sure that we're good. And a few of us who have that luxury, blessings to us. But there's so many of us who are not getting the proper care. Like, everybody doesn't have a Chromebook or a laptop or a phone that's suitable to sit here and even do telehealth for that matter. A lot of the clinics that the girls will use don't want nobody in there. Damn sure don't want one of us in there. This is where I said, like I said earlier, we are the last on the totem pole. Everybody can give two shits about us, and it's up to us to be our own community within the community to make sure we get the resources for each other and make sure we point each other in the directions of where they can, if you know of anything. It's a unity thing that we don't have time to sit here and fail upon doing. Each one teach one.
Thank you, Jennifer. We are nearing the end of our program. There is one last question from someone in the audience, and I would like to ask as a quick round to ground us before we allow some time to talk about a great way to build community coming up this November 22nd. But before we talk about that, I'm going to ask our panelists to answer this question from Leo very quickly. What do you love about yourself? And try to make this like 1 or 2 sentences so we can all go. And I'm gonna pass this first to Athena, if that's okay.
The question is, what do I like about myself? Or love
what do you love about yourself? Yes.
That is so hard. Because, like, I love the ability and the wisdom that I have to comprehend the things of this world that sometimes is uncomprehendable. I hope I'm saying that correctly. So I have a gift to be able to discern, see, hear, and speak to, I'll say, the atmosphere of whatever it is that's going on. I can adapt. I'm like a chameleon. You know what I'm saying? There was a time in my life where I used to adapt to be liked by people. And then now I adapt to just be me. You can like me or not. I'm unapologetically a Black trans woman, and I don't care what you think. So, yeah, that's me. Good night. Not y'all. My goddaughter is leaving. Sorry.
Thank you. Let me pass this to Pai.
I think the thing I love most about myself is that I'm someone that my 12-year-old self could have never imagined, but like would have wanted to be. And I think that's the best thing that I could have done for myself, was be someone that the child in me didn't know I needed, but would be proud of.
Thank you. Let's send this to Chastity.
What I love about myself is my rawness, my raunchiness, my ability to speak, to uplift and empower people. I feel like that's one of my greatest strengths that I love about myself, and I feel like that helps my community the most.
Thank you so much. Jen?
What I love most about me is my ability to love, my desire and focus of love. And I'm not talking about relationship, like sexual relationship. I'm talking about just love, period. I have to have love for myself. I have to have love for the community. I have to have love for the fellow human being. And my love is precious, it's important, and it's mean. Hence that name right there on that screens. I paid a lot of money for that name. New Jersey wasn't giving out no free passes. I had to pay out my pocket for that. That's a lot of time and money. I love love.
Thank you.
Hashtag is all about the love. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Tre'Andre?
Actually, quite similar to Jennifer. It's what I love about myself is my capacity for compassion, for empathy, and for love.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Kaamila?
Some similar themes. I love my bravery. I love that I am a survivor and that I have a really big heart and I work really hard for the people and the communities I care about.
Thank you. I love all of those things about all of y'all. And I want to thank all of you for being here, for being part of this panel. I want to give the mic to Athena to talk about a very important event, the Transgender Day of Remembrance. Take it away.
So, TDOR. Everyone knows that June 13th, myself, Tre'Andre, Chastity, and a host of other trans individuals, identified individuals of color, put together the Trans Resistance March and Vigil. But we also aspired, as we always talked about, for us, by us, doing things for our community, by people of color, and things like that. And so this year, 1 year it was ran by Chastity while she was my supervisor at AIDS Action. And then I believe last year it was MTPC was the fiscal conduit, as well as also helping with planning and everything. So this year, Tre'Andre reached out and asked if we would be interested in doing it. And I was like, why not, take a little bit off his plate, because I know he does a lot. And then it would also be amazing to see what we can do as a community for the March to be able to do something similar around Trans Day of Remembrance as well. So this year it's going to be at Franklin Park. It's going to be across from the Shattuck Hospital. We're getting a big tent. It's going to be done in person and virtually as well. The tent will be done social distancing style, of course, but we're also going to have heaters installed into the tent as well to keep everyone warm that's going to be there. But of course, and even though I don't like this part, we know that it's required and it's needed. And of course, the funding and money is needed to put these events on. And any money that comes in that is not spent on putting the event together, and I can be very cheap, so that all money that does come in can go back out to the resources and what it needs, which is the Transgender Emergency Fund and healthcare for the homeless. And so we've been doing our fundraising. We've been asking everyone if they would to donate for this prestigious event. I can say this now, since everyone is here, they don't know, and I think this is amazing. So this year I've created an award called the Trans Day of Remembrance Resilience Award. And a few of the recipients for that award this year is Chastity Bowick, Tre'Andre Valentine, Grace Sterling, and I believe there is one more. I just have to check my notes. And so I thought about the idea, because you're thinking about, yes, we're celebrating those who have passed on, but I also like to celebrate life. And I believe in giving people their flowers while they're still here. And so these are two individuals that are on here right now that are people of color, trans-identified, that have broke mountains and backs to be sure that this community can have a space. And so I think it would be afforded the opportunity to be able to honor them and the work that they've done. So I believe somebody just posted the link. I could be wrong, but I'm also going to post the other stuff in here. So please take it to your Facebook pages, take it to your social medias, and just encourage people to donate. No little is nothing. If you have $1 and you want to donate $1, donate your $1. If you have 50 cents and you want to donate your 50 cents, try. I don't know if Cash App and stuff allows you to do that. But you can find us on Venmo at Transresistance, the @ and Transresistance MA, and then also the link for our PayPal is in there. Excuse me. And so we look forward to you tuning in. We look forward to your support. We look forward to whatever it is that you want to do. If you want to perform, I believe the open ballot is still available to be able to do that till Monday. And then we're going to have intergenerational speakers from the older generation, the younger generation, and then the middle generation, just to see the progress of life that has gone on between the trans community, the ones who have paved the way for people like me, and then as I walk on their backs to continue to pave the way for individuals who are younger than me. So yes, donate to a prestigious cause, and let's make this one day to remember.
Thank you so much, Athena. Just reminding folks, please, the date, time of the event is the 22nd, November 22nd, at what time?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. There you go. If you're watching this on the rewatch, make sure to donate and to follow Trans Resistance MA on donate on Venmo, follow on Instagram, and other social media to be involved. And
on our website also at transresistancema.com.
There you go, the website as well. Great, thank you so much, and I hope to see all of y'all on TDOR, at TDOR. English is hard, but I hope to see y'all there. Once again, thank you so much to all of our panelists. Thank you so much, Kaamila. Thank you so much, Tre'Andre. Thank you so much, Pi, Jen, Chastity, Athena. Thank you so much for everybody that made this event possible, including our amazing sponsors, the Boston Women, Gender, and Sexuality Program, the BU Arts Initiative, Boston School of Theology and student groups, Heretical Methodist Ministries, Interfaith Club of School of Theology, Harvard Seminary. And I also want to give a big thank you to the Massachusetts Transgender Political Coalition and the Transgender Emergency Fund of Massachusetts, as well as Raíces Latina Student Association, Association of Black Samaritans, Cross Disability Club, Unitarian Universalist Student Association, and everybody else that plugged into this event to make it such a success. I want to say thank you so much to Kimberly, to Tris, and to Jeremy, and to everybody watching. Please stay safe, wear your masks. If you are watching this before November 3rd, make sure you vote. If you're watching this after November 3rd, make sure that you do more than just vote and get involved in your community and support all of these amazing causes. Again, my name is just JP. You can follow me on all of my social media at Drag Queen JP, because I'm a drag queen. My name is JP, Drag with JP. So easy, you won't forget it. And I hope to see you here again. Maybe we'll make this a series. Who knows? But for now, thank you all so much, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.
And thank you, Just JP, for hosting us and facilitating us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It is an honor. Really, thank you all.
Thank you. Good night.
I'll be sure that Jeremy.
Good night.